Welcome to or welcome back to How to Change the World, the podcast that equips changemakers with the insights, tools, and inspiration to drive meaningful impact. I'm Catherine Alonzo, and today we're diving into one of the most practical tools that I have ever used to help organizations make faster, better, and more effective decisions, especially when the pressure is on. Today, we're talking about the decision tree. Now, if that sounds technical or boring or like something you would have studied in grade school, stay with me because this one tool can mean the difference between a smooth, values-aligned decision process and absolute chaos. And in today's rapidly changing world, clarity in decision-making isn't just helpful, it's absolutely critical. So let's get into it. Why does the decision tree matter, and what even is a decision tree? It's a simple but powerful framework that helps you define roles in any decision-making process. It works for any organization, whether you're a nonprofit, a school, a business, a campaign team, whatever. But it's especially helpful when you need to move fast, when stakes are high, or when you're navigating something new or controversial. There are 4 roles in the decision tree, and here's how they break down. Number 1, the decision maker. This is the person or group responsible for making the final call. The buck stops here. Number 2, who is included? These are the people who are involved in making the decision. They might help evaluate options or weigh pros and cons, and their agreement is part of the process. Number 3, who is consulted? These folks offer input that's taken seriously, but they're not necessarily in the room when the final call is made. And then number 4, who is alerted? This is the group that is informed after the decision is made. That could be staff, your board, donors, clients, or the public. It sounds simple, but when this structure is unclear or skipped altogether, which it too often is, decisions fall apart, people get confused, and trust erodes. So let me give you 2 really quick examples. One where the decision tree worked well, and one where not so much. First of all, the example where I saw this not work very well. We were working with a client on a brand refresh, updating their name and visual identity. It's the kind of work that gets people excited and nervous all at once because it's high stakes. You don't do it very often. You do it once in multiple generations within an organization, and it touches emotion, identity, legacy. At the start of the project, like we always do, we walked the client through the decision tree. We mapped out who was the final decision maker, who needed to be included in approvals, who would be consulted along the way, like their board, for example, and who would just be alerted once things were finished. In this case, the executive director was the decision maker. A small internal team was included. The board was consulted through a couple of intentional presentations throughout the process. Everything was clear. But as we moved into the creative process, names, colors, logo, the ED started taking the work to their friends and family to get their input, asking what they thought, and then coming back to us with changes that didn't align with the feedback we'd gathered from the internal team or the goals that we had all agreed upon. Now, don't get me wrong, getting input is great. Intentional input is powerful, but this wasn't that. This was back-channel feedback that disrupted the process and confused the team. People weren't sure whose opinions mattered anymore, and it undermined the authority of the people who were supposed to be included in the decision. Eventually, we hit pause and reset. We adjusted the process to formally include a moment for the executive director to gather that outside input. That was important to them, and there was absolutely no point us trying to remove that from the process. And this is key, we clarified exactly how that input would be used. And that got us back on track. Let's take a quick break. And then I want to jump into an example of when I saw the decision tree used to great effect. It is such a tough time for nonprofits, agencies, and changemakers. Funding is tight, capacity is stretched, and your work matters more than ever. And you need communication support that can keep up. That's why we are super excited to introduce our new suite of modular, flexible services, built to help you and your storytelling stay visible, resilient, and connected when it matters the most. Whether you need a quick messaging refresh or adaptable on-demand support, Javelina is here to help you move forward with clarity and strength. You can see this list of services and discounted prices at javelina.co/rapid-response-services. That's javelina.co/rapid-response-services. Welcome back. Now, let me tell you about a time that the decision tree worked exactly the way it's meant to. We were recently working with a client who was considering whether to remove the words diversity, equity, and inclusion from their public materials. I'm sure you can guess why. It is an absolute political lightning rod at the federal level because of the war on inclusive organizations being waged by the federal government and president. Organizations across the board are wondering how to navigate this moment without compromising their values. Many of our clients are having this conversation, and the answer, the way forward, isn't the same for all of them. This is a high stakes question. The answer isn't the same for everyone. It depends on the org. So when we went back to the basics, the decision tree, we asked, who is the decision maker? In this case, it was the CEO. Who is included in this decision? This was the board chair. The CEO and the board chair had to be aligned. Who is consulted? This is the rest of the board and the senior staff, the people that we certainly wanted impact from, and we wanted to hear their opinions before making the decision. And then who is alerted? First staff, then the people that this organization serve, and then the broader public. That structure was agreed upon in advance. So as the process unfolded, there was no confusion, no turf wars, no surprises. Everyone knew what their role was, and no one was left out of the loop by accident. And that's what you want, especially when a topic is politically or emotionally charged, because nothing derails trust faster than finding out secondhand that something big has changed. So let's review the 4 roles in the decision tree. 1, the decision maker, the one with the final authority. 2, the included, the people who actively help to make the decision. 3, the consulted, those whose input is taken seriously but aren't part of the decision-making body. And number 4, people who need to be told once a decision is made. This isn't just helpful in your long-term planning, it's essential in rapid response. When there's a crisis or a big opportunity or some urgent moment where you need to act fast, this is what will save you. Not clever copy, not flashy graphics, clarity. Knowing in advance who does what means you can skip the chaos and move into action. That's what makes the difference between flailing and leading. That's also why we created a free rapid response guide, which walks you through how to prepare for high pressure moments and communicate clearly when they happen. You can grab your copy, your free copy, at javelina.co/rapid-response-guide. It's one of the best ways to make sure your team is ready for whatever comes next. And that's where I want to leave you today, with the reminder that clear roles make courageous decisions possible. When everyone knows their parts, you can move faster, act more boldly, and stay aligned with what matters the most. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, when I can't wait to share another story of change with you, have a great one.